Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to share with you will change how you see your past, your present, and the divine orchestration of your love story. There's someone out there whose heart beats differently when they hear your name mentioned in conversation. Someone who finds themselves scrolling through old photos at 2 a.m., wondering what could have been. Someone who's been secretly hoping, praying, and believing that maybe, just maybe, you're still available, because deep down, they know their heart never truly moved on from you. I know this might sound too good to be true, but God works in mysterious ways, and love real. Covenant love doesn't just disappear because circumstances forced you apart. You might be thinking, but we haven't spoken in months, maybe years. You might be convinced that they've completely forgotten about you, moved on, found someone better. But what if I told you that the very fact you're watching this video right now is no coincidence? What if the restlessness you've been feeling lately, that unexplained stirring in your spirit, is actually God preparing your heart for a reunion that's been orchestrated from the foundation of the world? I've been creating content about relationships and God's design for love for over a decade, reaching more than 20 million people with these truths. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that when God writes a love story, no amount of time, distance, or circumstances can erase what He's authored. Your story isn't over. That chapter you thought was closed. God might be preparing to write the most beautiful continuation you never saw coming. But before we dive deep into these life-changing revelations, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now, because the content I'm about to share with you will transform how you understand divine timing, spiritual connection, and the mysterious ways God works in matters of the heart. I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll have a completely new perspective on that person you can't seem to forget. And you'll understand why God might have been protecting your heart all this time for something more beautiful than you ever imagined. Let's dive in. Number 1. They compare everyone to you. Every time they meet someone new, there's this invisible measuring stick that appears, and guess who's the standard? You are. They might not even realize they're doing it, but in their subconscious mind, every conversation, every laugh, every moment of connection gets filtered through the memory of what they experienced with you. When someone new tells a joke, they think about how your humor was different, more natural, more aligned with their soul. When they're on a date and the person across from them speaks, there's this subtle disappointment because the voice doesn't carry the same warmth, the same familiarity, the same home-like quality that yours did. This isn't about being stuck in the past or being unable to move forward. This is about divine imprinting. When God allows two hearts to connect on a spiritual level, when He permits souls to recognize each other in that deep, unexplainable way, it creates an impression that can't be easily erased or replaced. The Bible tells us in Ecclesiastes that there's a time for everything under heaven, including a time to love. But what many people don't understand is that when God's timing brings two hearts together, even if circumstances pull them apart, that spiritual connection remains intact, waiting for the right season to be fully realized. They've tried to replace you. They've genuinely attempted to open their heart to others, to build something meaningful with someone else. But here's what happens. In quiet moments, when they're being completely honest with themselves, they realize that what they're really doing is trying to find you in someone else's body. They're looking for your laugh in someone else's mouth. They're searching for your way of understanding them in someone else's mind. They're hoping to feel that same spiritual alignment, that same sense of completeness they felt when they were with you. And when they can't find it, when every attempt falls short of the standard you unknowingly set, they begin to understand something profound. What they experienced with you wasn't just chemistry or compatibility. It was divine orchestration. It was God showing them what real covenant love feels like. This comparison isn't fair to the other people in their life, and deep down they know it. But the heart knows what it knows. And when God has written someone into your story, when He's used another person to reveal what real love looks like, that revelation doesn't just disappear because time passes. They might be dating someone right now. They might even be in a relationship. But I guarantee you, if you could see into their heart, if you could witness their private moments of reflection, you'd see that you're still there, still the standard, still the one they're unconsciously measuring everyone else against. Number 2, your name still makes their hearts skip. There's a physical reaction that happens when someone mentions your name in their presence, and no matter how much time has passed, they haven't been able to control it. Their body betrays their attempts at indifference. Their heart rate increases. Their breathing changes slightly. And there's this moment of internal chaos where every wall they've built to protect themselves from the memory of you comes crashing down. This isn't weakness. This isn't them being unable to let go or move on. This is the body's honest response to hearing the name of someone who left a spiritual imprint on their heart. When two people connect on the level that transcends the physical and touches the eternal part of who they are, the mention of that person's name becomes like a key that unlocks chambers of the heart that have been carefully sealed away. They might be in the middle of a completely normal conversation when someone casually brings you up, and suddenly they're transported back to moments of connection, memories of laughter, experiences of feeling truly understood and valued. The way you used to look at them like they were the most important person in the room. The way you listened, really listened, when they shared their dreams, their fears, their hopes for the future. The way being with you felt like coming home to a place they didn't even know they'd been searching for. Your name carries weight in their world because you carried significance in their story. And here's what's beautiful about this. They might try to brush it off. They might make jokes or change the subject quickly, but inside, they're having a full conversation with God about why you still have this effect on them. They're asking Him why, after all this time, after all their attempts to move forward, the simple mention of your name can still make their souls stir with longing. They're wondering if this is a sign, if this persistent heart response means something more than just nostalgia. Sometimes they'll find themselves in worship, praising God for His goodness, and suddenly you'll come to mind. And they'll wonder if God is trying to tell them something. They'll be praying about their future, asking God to guide their steps in love and relationships, and your face will appear in their thoughts, and they'll question whether this is divine guidance or just wishful thinking. But what if it's both? What if God uses our hearts, our persistent feelings, our inability to completely forget certain people, as His way of keeping us connected to His plans for our lives? What if that skip in their heart when they hear your name isn't just emotion, but recognition, soul recognition of someone God designed to be part of their story, someone whose chapter isn't actually finished yet, just temporarily paused while God works behind the scenes to prepare both of your hearts for what He's planned next. Number 3, they stalk your social media without ever liking anything. Let me paint you a picture that's probably more accurate than you realize. Late at night, when they can't sleep, when their mind starts wandering and their heart starts remembering, they find themselves typing your name into the search bar. They tell themselves, They're just curious, just checking to see how you're doing, just wanting to make sure you're okay. But we both know it's deeper than that. They scroll through your photos, your posts, your stories, drinking in every detail like they're trying to piece together a puzzle of your life without them in it. They're looking for clues. Are you happy? Do you seem fulfilled? Are there any signs that you might be available? That you might still be the person they remember? That you might still carry some of the same dreams and values that originally drew them to you? But here's the thing that reveals the true depth of their feelings. They never like anything. They never comment. They never give you any indication that they're watching your life unfold from a distance. This isn't because they don't care. This is because they care too much. They're terrified of opening a door they're not sure they're ready to walk through. They're afraid that one like, one comment, one small gesture of connection might unleash all the feelings they've been trying so hard to manage. They're protecting themselves from the vulnerability of reaching out and potentially being ignored, rejected, or worse, finding out that you've completely moved on and don't think about them at all. So they watch in silence, like a guardian angel who can see but can't be seen, caring about your well-being, celebrating your victories in their heart, and hoping beyond hope that you're not posting pictures with someone new who's taken their place in your affections. When you post about achievements, about growth, about positive changes in your life, there's this swell of pride in their chest because they remember your potential. They remember your dreams, and seeing you step into your greatness validates what they always believed about you. But when you post things that suggest you might be dating, when there are pictures with someone who could potentially be romantic interest, there's a physical pain that shoots through their chest, a reminder that they still consider themselves emotionally invested in your happiness and your heart. This silent observation isn't healthy long-term, and deep down they know it. But it's their way of staying connected to you without risking the pain of direct rejection. It's their way of maintaining hope while protecting their heart. And sometimes, in their most honest moments with God, they pray that you might be doing the same thing, that you might be occasionally checking their life too, wondering how they're doing, hoping they're well, maybe even missing what you used to have together. They're hoping that this digital distance is actually a form of preparation, that God is using this time of watching and waiting to prepare both of your hearts for a reunion that will be more beautiful because of the time you've spent apart growing and becoming who He's called you to be. Number 4, they've never deleted your number or your photos. In a world where people block, delete, and completely erase digital traces of past relationships, they've kept every single connection to you intact. Your number is still in their phone, probably with the same contact photo they chose when you were together, the one where you're genuinely laughing or smiling in that way that made their heart happy. They've never changed it, never updated it, never removed it. It sits there like a monument to what was and a bridge to what could be again. This isn't about living in the past. This is about hope. This is about keeping doors unlocked that others might have sealed shut every few weeks. Maybe months. They'll scroll through their contacts and pause when they get to your name. Their finger will hover over the call button. Their heart will start racing, and they'll compose entire conversations in their mind about what they would say if they had the courage to dial those familiar numbers. They imagine hearing your voice again. Imagine the surprise, maybe the joy they hope they might hear when you realize it's them. They rehearse apologies they want to make, explanations they want to give, feelings they want to express, but then fear takes over, doubt creeps in, and they put the phone down. telling themselves that maybe it's not the right time yet, maybe God is still preparing the way. The photos are even more telling in hidden albums, in cloud storage, in places where no one else can see. They've preserved every memory you created together. Pictures from dates, screenshots of text, conversations that made them smile, photos you sent them during the time you were close. They've never been able to bring themselves to delete these digital memories, because doing so would feel like erasing a part of their heart, like denying the reality of something beautiful that God allowed them to experience. Sometimes they'll look through these photos when they're missing you, when they're wondering if what they remember was as real and special as it felt. And every time they do, they're reminded that yes, what you had was genuine. Yes, the connection was real. Yes, the love was authentic and deep and worth remembering. These photos serve as evidence that they weren't imagining the chemistry, the compatibility, the sense that you two just fit together in a way that made sense to their soul. What's beautiful about this is that keeping your number and your photos represents faith. It represents a belief that God's story for your relationship isn't over. Yet it represents hope that someday, maybe sooner than either of you expect, that number won't just be a contact in their phone, but an active line of communication again. Those photos won't just be memories of the past, but the foundation for new memories you'll create together. They're believing for restoration, for divine timing, for God to move in ways that bring healing to whatever caused you to be apart and reunion in His perfect timing. Number 5. They dream about you more than they'd ever admit. The subconscious mind doesn't lie, and neither does the heart when it's free from the defenses we build during waking hours. In their dreams, you appear regularly, consistently. Sometimes as the main character in narratives that feel so real they wake up disappointed to discover it was just their sleeping mind processing the longing of their heart. These aren't just random dreams or meaningless subconscious activity. These are their heart's honest expression of what it truly wants, what it's still hoping for, what it believes is possible, even when their conscious mind tries to convince them to be practical and move on. In these dreams, you're together again, but it's different than it was before. It's better, healthier, more mature. The issues that caused problems in the past have been resolved. The misunderstandings have been cleared up. And you're both operating from a place of greater wisdom and emotional intelligence. Sometimes they dream about conversations they wish they could have with you, apologies they want to make, feelings they want to express. Other times they dream about simple moments of connection, just being in your presence, feeling that sense of completeness and rightness they remember from when you were close. The most powerful dreams are the ones where you're looking at them with love again, where the walls are down, where forgiveness has happened, where there's this sense that God has worked everything out for good, just like His word promises. They wake up from these dreams with their heart full of hope and their mind full of questions. Are these dreams just wishful thinking, or is God using their sleep to communicate something deeper? Is their subconscious processing unresolved feelings, or is the Holy Spirit giving them glimpses of what He has planned for their future? The frequency of these dreams is what convinces them that their connection to you operates on a spiritual level that transcends physical distance and time apart. Normal people don't dream about past relationships this consistently unless there's something unfinished, something that God isn't ready to close the book on yet. Sometimes they'll wake up and immediately pray, asking God to give them clarity about what these dreams mean. They'll ask Him to either heal their heart completely and help them move on, or to make a way for restoration if that's what is planned. What they don't always realize is that these dreams might be God's way of keeping their heart tender toward you, of preventing them from hardening their heart or building walls that would make reconciliation impossible if and when He decides to orchestrate your paths crossing again. The dreams serve as a reminder that what you shared was real, meaningful, and worth the hope they still carry in their heart. They're a confirmation that loving you wasn't a mistake, that the connection you had was divinely orchestrated, and that God's timing for relationships doesn't always align with human expectations or societal pressure to move on quickly. Number 6, they find reasons to bring you up in conversations. Without even realizing it, they've become a master at weaving your memory into conversations in ways that seem natural and casual, but are actually their heart's attempt to keep you alive in their present world. When friends talk about relationships, about love, about what they're looking for in a partner, somehow your name finds its way into the discussion. They'll reference something you taught them, some way you made them feel, some quality you possessed that they now realize was rare and valuable. You know, I once knew someone who... And then they'll share a story about you that reveals far more about their current feelings than they intended. They talk about you like you were this incredible person who came into their life and showed them what real love looked like, what genuine connection felt like, what it meant to be truly understood and appreciated by another human being. When people ask them about their relationship history, about past connections, your story gets special treatment. They don't just mention you in passing like they do others. They pause, their voice changes, becomes softer, more thoughtful, more reverent, like they're talking about something sacred that deserves to be handled with care. Their friends have probably noticed this pattern, this tendency to speak about you differently than they speak about anyone else from their past. Some might have even asked direct questions. Do you still have feelings for them? Or have you thought about reaching out? And they probably deflect, change the subject, or give answers that are technically true but don't reveal the whole truth of their heart. But the fact that your name keeps coming up in their conversations reveals that you're never far from their thoughts, that you've become a reference point for what they experienced, what they learned, what they're still hoping to find again. Sometimes they'll catch themselves mid-story and realize they're talking about you again, sharing another memory, another example of how you impacted their understanding of love and relationships. And in those moments, they might feel embarrassed, wondering if people think they're stuck in the past or unable to move forward. But what's really happening is their heart's way of processing the reality that you were significant, that what you shared was meaningful, and that the impact you had on their life deserves to be acknowledged and honored. When they talk about you to others, they're also talking to themselves, reminding themselves of what they experienced, what they learned, what they believe is possible in relationships because of what you showed them. They're keeping the memory alive because the memory gives them hope that real love, deep connection, and genuine compatibility aren't just fairy tales or unrealistic expectations. You prove to them that these things exist, that they're possible, that they deserve to experience them. And by talking about you, they're also potentially preparing the way for others to understand why they haven't settled, why they haven't forced themselves into relationships that don't measure up to what they experienced with you, why they're still believing God for something beautiful and real. Number 7, they get excited when mutual friends mention your name. There's this spark that lights up in their eyes, this immediate shift in their energy and attention when someone who knows both of you starts talking about you. Suddenly, they're the most engaged listener in the room, hanging on every word. desperate for any new information about how you're doing, what you're up to, whether you seem happy, whether you've mentioned them at all. They try to play it cool, try to seem casually interested rather than desperately hungry for details, but their body language betrays them. They lean forward, they ask follow-up questions that reveal they're paying much closer attention than they want to admit. Oh, how did they seem when you saw them? Did they mention anything about work, about their family, about their plans? And the question they really want to ask, but rarely have the courage to, did they ask about me at all? When mutual friends share positive updates about your life, there's this swell of pride and joy in their heart that confirms they still care deeply about your well-being and success. When they hear that you've got a promotion, that you're pursuing a dream, that you seem to be thriving, part of them celebrates like they're still part of your life, still invested in your happiness. But when friends mention that you might be dating someone, that there might be someone new in your life, the reaction is immediate and visceral. Their heart sinks, their mind starts racing with questions they don't want to ask, and they have to work hard to maintain their composure and continue the conversation without revealing how much that information affected them. Sometimes friends will intentionally share information about you because they can sense that there are still feelings there, that there's still a connection that hasn't been fully resolved. They might be hoping to gauge their reaction, to understand if there's any possibility of reconciliation, or maybe they're even rooting for you two to find your way back to each other. Other times, friends mention you innocently, not realizing that every piece of information about your life is precious to someone who still loves you, still wonders about you, still hopes that maybe someday the story between you will continue. What mutual friends don't always understand is that these conversations serve as a lifeline for someone who's trying to respect boundaries, trying to give you space, but still desperately wants to know that you're okay and happy. They can't reach out directly without risking rejection or making things complicated. But through mutual friends, they can maintain some connection to your world, some sense of how you're doing. These conversations also serve as reality checks. When friends describe you as seeming genuinely happy and fulfilled, it confirms that you're growing and thriving, which brings them joy but also makes them wonder if you've moved on completely. When friends mention that you seem to be struggling with something or going through a difficult time, their protective instincts kick in and they wish they could be there to support you, to be the person you lean on during challenging seasons. Number 8. They still pray for you and your future together. In their most private moments with God, in the secret place where they're completely honest about the desires of their heart, they still lift your name up in prayer. This isn't just casual mention or brief thoughts. These are intentional, specific, heartfelt prayers that reveal the depth of their love and the persistence of their hope that God isn't finished writing your story together. They pray for your well-being, for your spiritual growth, for your happiness and success in every area of life. They ask God to protect you, to guide your steps, to surround you with good people who will encourage and support you when they know you're going through challenges. When mutual friends mention that you're facing difficult situations, their prayers become more urgent, more specific, more fervent. They're interceding for someone they love, asking God to provide solutions, to bring comfort, to work everything together for your good, just like He promises in His word. But beyond praying for your general well-being, they also pray about the relationship, about what God might have planned for your future together. They ask Him for wisdom to know whether their persistent feelings are from Him or just their own wishful thinking. They pray for divine timing, asking God that if He has planned a future for you together, He would orchestrate the circumstances to make it possible. They pray for healing of any wounds that might exist between you, for resolution of whatever issues caused you to be apart in the first place. Sometimes their prayers are desperate, born out of loneliness and longing, asking God to either restore the relationship or heal their heart completely so they can move forward. Other times their prayers are peaceful, trusting, expressing faith that God knows what's best and that His timing is perfect even when it doesn't align with their desires. They pray that you would know how much you're loved, how much you meant to them, how grateful they are that God allowed you to be part of their story even if it was only for a season. What's beautiful about these prayers is that they reveal a heart that understands love as something eternal, something that doesn't just disappear when circumstances change. They're praying from a place of covenant thinking, believing that when God connects to hearts on a deep spiritual level, that connection is meant to be honored and fought for, not easily abandoned. Their prayers also demonstrate maturity because they're not just asking God to give them what they want, they're asking Him to do what's best, to work in ways that would bring glory to His name and genuine happiness to both of your hearts. They're willing to accept His will even if it's different from their hopes, but they're also bold enough to ask Him for the desires of their heart, trusting that He cares about their happiness and their future. If you've watched this entire video, if these 8 points have resonated with something deep in your spirit, then I want you to understand something profound. The person God has placed on your heart, the one you can't seem to forget, the one whose memory brings both joy and longing, they are experiencing many of these same things. Love doesn't just disappear because time passes or circumstances change. When God writes two hearts into each other's stories, when He allows souls to connect on that deep spiritual level, that connection transcends distance, time, and even the walls we build to protect ourselves from vulnerability. Your story isn't over. That chapter you thought was closed might just be an intermission while God prepares both of your hearts for a reunion that will be more beautiful because of the growth you've experienced apart. Don't lose hope. Don't assume that silence means indifference or that distance means they've moved on completely. Sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that require patience, faith, and trust in God's perfect timing. If this message has stirred something in your heart, if you feel that Holy Spirit confirmation that God is speaking to you about someone specific, I want you to take this to prayer. Ask Him for wisdom, for guidance, for the courage to trust His plan even when you can't see the full picture. And if you found value in this message, if it gave you hope and encouragement, please hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who needs to hear these truths. Sometimes God uses our content to reach the exact person who needs to understand that they're loved, they're remembered, and they're not forgotten. Your love story is still being written. Trust the author.